The invasion begins. The skies darkened as the massive alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere. Their hulls, sleek and otherworldly, reflected the panicked faces of humans below. General Zark, commander of the Selnar invasion fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship, a smug smile playing across his features. His three eyes blinked in sequence as he surveyed the holographic display of Earth's defenses. "Pathetic," he muttered, mandibles clicking with disdain. "Their most advanced weapons are barely more than toys compared to our technology." His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vex, nodded in agreement. "The conquest of this world will be swift, General. Our simulations predict total victory within a standard solar cycle." As the alien armada descended, Earth's military scrambled to respond. Fighter jets screamed across the sky, only to be swatted away by energy beams that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Tanks fired volley after volley, their shells harmlessly dissipating against shimmering force fields. In Washington, D.C., the Joint Chiefs of Staff gathered in a bunker deep beneath the Pentagon. The mood was grim as reports flooded in from around the globe. Major cities were under siege, and conventional forces were proving ineffective against the alien onslaught. "We need to think outside the box," General Sarah Hawthorne said, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "Our strength has always been in our adaptability, our ability to find unconventional solutions." As if in answer to her words, a report came in from the front lines. A squad of alien troops, advancing on a small town in Colorado, had suddenly lost their commanding officer. There was no explosion, no sign of what had happened. One moment he was there, the next he was on the ground, a precise hole drilled through his helmet. Similar reports began trickling in from other theaters of war. Alien officers falling without warning, key equipment mysteriously malfunctioning. The pattern was clear to those who knew what to look for. Snipers. Back on the alien flagship, General Zark frowned at the latest casualty reports. "What is this?" he demanded, gesturing at the holographic display. "How are we losing officers without any sign of enemy fire?" Sub-Commander Vex studied the data, his antennae twitching with confusion. "It appears to be some form of long-range, high-precision weapon, sir, but our sensors aren't detecting any energy signatures or projectiles." Zark dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. "A minor annoyance. Focus on the primary targets. These isolated incidents are insignificant compared to our overall strategic advantage." But as the hours turned into days, the isolated incidents began to multiply. Alien supply lines were disrupted by seemingly impossible shots that disabled crucial equipment. Forward operating bases found themselves under constant, invisible pressure, never knowing when or where the next attack would come from. On Earth, a network of snipers was forming. Men and women from various military backgrounds, along with skilled civilian hunters and marksmen, were being recruited and deployed with utmost secrecy. They operated in small teams, moving silently through urban ruins and dense forests, striking with lethal precision before melting away into the landscape. Captain Emily Chen, a decorated Army sniper, found herself leading one such team in the mountains of Montana. As she lay prone on a ridge, her cheek pressed against the cool stock of her rifle, she marveled at how the tables had turned. "They came here thinking we'd be easy prey," she whispered to her spotter, Sergeant Mike Tanner. "But they forgot that humans have been hunting since the dawn of our species. We know how to be patient, how to wait for the perfect shot." Through her scope, Chen watched an alien patrol moving through the valley below. Their arrogance was evident in their casual stance, the way they barely scanned their surroundings. They believed their advanced sensors would warn them of any threat. They were wrong. With a slow, controlled exhale, Chen squeezed the trigger. The rifle bucked against her shoulder, the sound suppressed to little more than a cough. A kilometer away, the alien leader crumpled to the ground, purple blood oozing from a perfectly placed shot through a gap in its armor. Chaos erupted among the alien squad. They fired wildly into the surrounding forest, their energy weapons scorching trees and rocks. but finding no targets. By the time they'd regrouped and called for reinforcements, Chen and her team were already gone, moving to their next position. Similar scenes played out across the globe. In the dense jungles of Brazil, amid the ruins of Tokyo, and in the sprawling Australian outback, human snipers struck with impunity. They targeted officers, disrupted communications, and sowed fear among the alien ranks. General Zark, however, remained stubbornly convinced of his force's superiority. "These are nothing but desperate tactics," he told his war council. "The humans are resorting to primitive methods because they cannot hope to match our technological might. Press the attack, and they will soon break." But doubt was beginning to creep into the minds of some alien commanders. They had expected a swift victory, yet weeks had passed, and they found themselves bogged down in a war of attrition they hadn't anticipated. Sub-Commander Vex dared to voice what others were thinking. "Perhaps we should reevaluate our strategy, General. These human snipers are proving to be more than just a nuisance. They're disrupting our operations, demoralizing our troops." Zark's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Are you suggesting that we, the mighty Xelnar Empire, should fear a handful of primitives with projectile weapons? Absurd. We will crush them with overwhelming force, increase the orbital bombardments, deploy more ground troops. I want every human resistance cell wiped out." As the alien war machine geared up for an even more aggressive push, Earth's defenders prepared for the fight of their lives. In hidden bunkers and makeshift command centers, sniper teams received their orders. They knew the odds were stacked against them, but they also knew they had already achieved the impossible. They had made the invaders bleed. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the fate of humanity. And in the shadows, in the quiet places where patience and skill trumped brute force and technology, Earth's snipers waited, ready to remind the aliens why it was a mistake to underestimate the human spirit. Silent resistance. As the alien invasion entered its second month, the pattern of human resistance became clear. Conventional military forces continued to engage the Xelnar in open combat, often with devastating losses. But it was the snipers, operating in the shadows, who were slowly turning the tide. In the ruins of London, Corporal James Harper of the Royal Marines crouched in the bombed-out shell of Big Ben. His ghillie suit, a masterpiece of human ingenuity, incorporated not just traditional camouflage materials, but also scraps of alien technology. The result was a covering that fooled even the most advanced Xelnar sensors. Harper's spotter, Private Emma Lewis, whispered coordinates to him as they observed an alien command post set up in Trafalgar Square. The once iconic location was now a hive of alien activity, with strange, pulsating structures erected around Nelson's column. "Target confirmed," Lewis murmured. "High-ranking officer, 3 clicks south-southeast. Wind speed negligible." Harper made minute adjustments to his rifle, a custom-built piece that fired specialized rounds designed to penetrate alien armor. He took a deep breath, centered himself, and squeezed the trigger. A kilometer away, an alien officer's head exploded in a spray of purple gore. Before the body had even hit the ground, Harper and Lewis were already moving, slipping away through pre-planned escape routes. Similar scenes played out across the globe. In New York, snipers nested in the upper floors of skyscrapers, picking off alien patrols attempting to secure Manhattan. In the dense rainforests of the Amazon, indigenous hunters with generations of stalking experience joined forces with special forces snipers, turning the jungle into a deadly maze for the invaders. The alien response was predictably heavy-handed. Unable to effectively counter the sniper threat, they resorted to leveling entire city blocks, scorching vast swathes of forest, and intensifying their orbital bombardments. But this only served to create more hiding places for the snipers, more broken urban landscapes perfect for concealment. On that Xelnar flagship, General Zark's frustration was reaching a boiling point. "How?" he roared, smashing a clawed fist into a holographic display. "How are these insects managing to cause so much disruption?" Sub-Commander Vex, who had been analyzing the patterns of human attacks, ventured a response. "It appears, sir, that the humans are utilizing extremely skilled marksmen in conjunction with advanced camouflage techniques. Our sensors are having difficulty distinguishing them from the surrounding environment." Zark's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Our technology is centuries beyond theirs. No primitive camouflage should be able to fool our systems." And yet, Vex continued cautiously, "The evidence suggests otherwise. These snipers are specifically targeting our command structure, disrupting our supply lines, and causing widespread fear among our ground forces. Some units are refusing to leave their fortified positions without significant air support." The general's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Cowards. I'll have them all executed for insubordination. We are the Xelnar. We do not cower in fear of primitive species." But even as Zark doubled down on his aggressive tactics, doubt continued to spread through the alien ranks. Soldiers whispered about human demons who could kill from impossible distances, unseen and unheard. Patrols grew increasingly paranoid, jumping at shadows and wasting energy blasting at empty buildings. Back on Earth, the network of snipers was growing. Retired marksmen came out of retirement, bringing decades of experience to the fight. Civilian hunters and competitive shooters volunteered their skills, quickly adapting to military protocols. Even children were enlisted as spotters, their keen eyes and small size making them ideal for reconnaissance. In a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Samantha Cole led a team of scientists working to enhance the sniper's capabilities. They developed new types of ammunition that could breach alien energy shields, experimented with adaptive camouflage that mimicked the surrounding environment in real time, and created targeting systems that could calculate shots accounting for factors the human brain couldn't process quickly enough. "We're turning our greatest weakness into our greatest strength," Dr. Cole explained to a group of senior military officials. "The aliens expected us to try to match their technology. Instead, we're refining what we've always been good at, adapting, improvising, and using the environment to our advantage." The sniper's impact went beyond just military victories. They became symbols of hope for a beleaguered humanity. Stories of their impossible shots and daring escapes spread through resistance networks, boosting morale and inspiring others to join the fight. In occupied territories, civilians risked their lives to provide intelligence to sniper teams. They marked alien patrol routes, identified high-value targets, and created distractions to aid in the sniper's escapes. It was a total war, with every human becoming a potential threat to the alien invaders. The Xelnar, for their part, struggled to adapt. Their entire military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and technological superiority. The idea of a numerically inferior force using primitive weapons to stymie their advance was incomprehensible to them. General Zark, in his stubbornness, refused to acknowledge the severity of the threat. "These are nothing but lucky shots," he insisted to his increasingly skeptical war council. "A few dead officers do not change the outcome of this war. We will crush these humans beneath our feet." But with each passing day, with each alien commander felled by a precisely placed shot, with each supply convoy thrown into disarray by a few well-hidden snipers, the tide of war was slowly turning. In the mountains of Afghanistan, a team of Gurkhas worked in concert with local tribesmen, using their intimate knowledge of the terrain to run circles around alien patrols. In the frozen wastes of Siberia, Russian snipers endured extreme conditions that the aliens found intolerable, striking from distances that seemed impossible given the planet's curvature. And in the heart of alien-occupied territories, lone wolf snipers played a deadly game of cat and mouse. They struck without warning, neutralizing high-value targets before disappearing into the rubble and ruin of once great cities. One such sniper was Maria Gonzalez, formerly an Olympic sports shooter from Argentina. She had been visiting New York when the invasion began and now found herself deep in enemy territory. Armed with a scavenge rifle and homemade ammunition, she became a ghost in the concrete jungle of Manhattan. Maria's latest target was an alien scientist, one of the few Xelnar who seemed to grasp the true nature of the human threat. She had tracked the alien for days, watching its patterns, noting its security detail. Now, as the alien emerged from its laboratory, Maria took aim from her perch 60 floors up in a half-destroyed skyscraper. The wind at this height was tricky, gusting unpredictably around the surrounding buildings. But Maria had learned to read the signs, the movement of debris, the swaying of distant cables. She exhaled slowly, her finger tightening on the trigger. The shot, when it came, was lost in the cacophony of distant battles and alien machinery. But its effect was immediate. The alien scientist collapsed, its shield generators overloaded by the specialized round. As chaos erupted below, Maria was already moving, scrambling down maintenance shafts and through hidden passages. She linked up with a resistance cell, passed on the intelligence she'd gathered, and then vanished again into the urban wilderness. It was a scene repeated countless times across the globe. Human snipers, whether military-trained or civilian volunteers, were proving to be the ultimate equalizer against alien technology. They struck from the shadows, vanished like ghosts, and left the invaders questioning every step they took on this hostile planet. The war was far from over, but a message was being sent with every precisely placed shot. Earth would not fall easily, and humanity was far more dangerous than the Xelnar had ever imagined. Turning the tide. As the third month of the invasion dawned, the impact of Earth's snipers could no longer be ignored, even by the most stubborn alien commanders. The Xelnar war machine, once seeming unstoppable, had been reduced to a cautious, paranoid force, jumping at shadows and hesitating to advance without overwhelming support. In what was once the bustling metropolis of Tokyo, now a haunting landscape of twisted metal and shattered glass, a team of Japanese snipers had turned the urban ruins into a deadly maze. Led by Akira Tanaka, a former police marksman, they moved silently through the remnants of skyscrapers and subway tunnels, striking with lethal precision before melting away into the chaos of the ruined city. Tanaka's latest target was a Xelnar field commander who had been tasked with pacifying the resistant pockets of humanity in the greater Tokyo area. The alien had set up a command post in the partially collapsed Tokyo Tower, its twisted frame now housing strange, pulsating alien technology. As dawn broke over the devastated cityscape, Tanaka lay motionless on the roof of a nearby building, his rifle trained on the alien command post. His spotter, a young woman named Yuki who had been a competitive archer before the invasion, whispered environmental data to him. Wind from the east, 3 meters per second. Temperature rising. Heat shimmer minimal. Tanaka made minute adjustments to his scope, factoring in the Coriolis effect and the curvature of the Earth. The shot would be pushing the limits of human capability, but that's what this war had become, a constant test of how far humanity. Tanaka steadied his breathing, his finger resting lightly on the trigger. Through his scope, he could see the alien commander gesticulating to its subordinates, its 3 eyes blinking in rapid succession as it laid out its plans for crushing the human resistance. With a gentle squeeze, Tanaka sent the round on its way. The specialized bullet, designed to penetrate alien energy shields, covered the distance in a fraction of a second. It struck the alien commander square in the center of its triangular head, causing it to explode in a shower of purple gore. Chaos erupted in the alien command post. Subordinates scrambled for cover, energy weapons firing wildly into the surrounding cityscape. But Tanaka and Yuki were already gone, slipping away through pre-planned escape routes in the labyrinthine ruins of Tokyo. Similar scenes were playing out across the globe. In the mountains of Colorado, a team of former Special Forces snipers had turned the Rockies into a killing ground for alien patrols. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous hunters worked in tandem with military marksmen, using their intimate knowledge of the jungle to outmaneuver and eliminate alien search parties. The impact of these operations went far beyond the immediate tactical victories. The constant threat of unseen snipers was wreaking havoc on alien morale. Xelnar troops, once confident in their technological superiority, now moved with hesitation, jumping at every shadow and sound. On the alien flagship, General Zark could no longer ignore the mounting evidence of his army's failings. His war council had become a chorus of worried voices, each commander reporting significant losses and a complete stalling of their advance. "This is unacceptable," Zark roared, his mandibles clicking furiously. "We are the Selmar Empire. How can we be brought to a standstill by primitives with projectile weapons?" Sub-Commander Vex, who had been analyzing the patterns of human attacks, stepped forward. "Sir, I believe we have gravely underestimated the humans' ability to adapt. Their snipers are not just skilled marksmen. They represent a fundamental shift in warfare that we were not prepared for." Zark's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Explain." "The humans are fighting an asymmetric war," Vex continued. "They're not trying to match our technology or numbers. Instead, they're exploiting our weaknesses, our reliance on centralized command, our expectation of open battle. These snipers strike at our leadership, disrupt our supply lines, and disappear before we can retaliate." The general's claws dug into the holographic display, distorting the image of Earth. "Then we will change our tactics, increase orbital bombardments, level their cities, leave them nowhere to hide." But even as Zark gave the order, he knew in his core that it was too late. That Selnar invasion, which had seemed unstoppable mere months ago, was now bogged down in a war of attrition they were ill-equipped to fight. Back on Earth, the network of snipers was growing more sophisticated by the day. In hidden bunkers and makeshift labs, human scientists worked tirelessly to enhance the snipers' capabilities. New types of ammunition were developed, capable of penetrating even the strongest alien energy shields. Adaptive camouflage systems, reverse-engineered from captured alien tech, allowed snipers to blend seamlessly into any environment. But it wasn't just about technology. The human snipers had tapped into something more primal, more essentially human. They were the hunters, and the aliens, for all their advanced technology, had become the hunted. In the ruins of Paris, Captain Marie Dubois of the French Foreign Legion led a team of snipers in a daring operation. Their target was a massive alien processing center, where humans were being rounded up for experimentation and slave labor. The facility was heavily guarded, its perimeter bristling with energy weapons and force fields. But Dubois had a plan. Over the course of a week, her team systematically eliminated key security personnel, always striking from different angles, never allowing the aliens to pin down their location. With each precision shot, the alien defenders grew more paranoid, more prone to mistakes. Finally, when the aliens were at their most disorganized, Dubois gave the signal. Dozens of resistance fighters, who had been hiding in the sewers and catacombs beneath the city, launched a coordinated attack. The snipers provided cover, picking off alien officers and heavy weapons operators with deadly accuracy. In less than an hour, the processing center had fallen. Hundreds of human prisoners were freed, many immediately joining the resistance. It was a massive blow to the alien occupation and a tremendous morale boost for the human resistance. News of the victory in Paris spread rapidly through the global resistance network. Similar operations were launched in other occupied cities, each one carefully coordinated and supported by teams of expert snipers. The aliens found themselves in an impossible situation. If they concentrated their forces for better protection, they became easy targets for conventional human attacks. If they spread out, they left themselves vulnerable to the ever-present sniper threat. General Zark, watching his invasion crumble before his eyes, finally began to understand the gravity of his miscalculation. The humans, whom he had dismissed as primitive and weak, had turned their perceived weakness into their greatest strength. Their ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to exploit every advantage had transformed them from easy prey into formidable predators. As the tide of war continued to turn, a new realization dawned on both humans and aliens alike. This would not be a swift conquest, but a long, grueling conflict. And in this new kind of war, it was the patient hunter, the unseen sniper who held the advantage. The Selnar Empire had come to Earth expecting an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a nightmare of their own making, never knowing when or where the next deadly shot would come from. The hunters had become the hunted, and Earth's snipers were far from finished with their deadly work. The hunters become the hunted. As the war entered its 4th month, the shift in momentum was undeniable. The Selnar invasion force, once seemingly invincible, now found itself on the defensive. Earth's snipers had evolved from a mere nuisance to a terrifying, omnipresent threat that was slowly but surely dismantling the alien war machine. In the scorching deserts of the Sahara, a team of multinational snipers led by Major Hassan al-Rashid of the Egyptian Special Forces had turned the endless dunes into a deadly killing field. Using advanced ghillie suits that mimicked the shifting sands, they were virtually invisible to both the naked eye and alien sensors. Al-Rashid's team had been tracking a critical alien supply convoy for days. The convoy, heavily guarded and shielded, was transporting vital resources and replacement parts for the Selnar's advanced weaponry. Taking it out would be a significant blow to the alien war effort in North Africa. As the convoy entered a narrow pass between towering dunes, Al-Rashid gave the signal. In perfect synchronization, 6 shots rang out, so close together they sounded like a single prolonged crack. 6 alien drivers slumped over their controls, their vehicles careening into each other in a cascade of destruction. Before the alien guards could react, a second volley took out the officers. Confusion reigned as the remaining Selnar troops fired blindly into the surrounding desert, their energy weapons turning sand to glass, but finding no targets. Al-Rashid allowed himself a grim smile. The aliens still hadn't learned. They relied too heavily on their technology, on their sensors and shields. They hadn't grasped that sometimes the oldest techniques were the most effective. His team had spent weeks studying the dunes, learning to read the wind, to become one with the desert. No alien tech could match that level of environmental attunement. As the convoy burned under the merciless desert sun, Al-Rashid and his team melted away into the landscape. Another victory for Earth's silent guardians. Meanwhile, on the alien flagship, General Zark was facing a mutiny. His war council, once cowed by his ferocious temper, now openly challenged his every decision. "We cannot continue like this," Sub-Commander Vex shouted, his usual composure shattered by weeks of constant stress and setbacks. "Our forces are being decimated. Morale is at an all-time low. We must adapt our strategies or face total defeat." Zark's eyes blazed with fury, but for the first time, there was an undercurrent of fear in his voice. "And what would you suggest? That we cower in fear of these primitive humans? We are the Selnar Empire. We do not retreat." Another council member, Science Officer Zin, stepped forward. "With respect, General, our current approach is illogical. These human snipers have nullified our technological advantage. We must find a way to counter their tactics." Zark's mandibles clicked in agitation, but he couldn't deny the truth of Zin's words. "Very well," he growled. "What do you propose?" Zin activated a holographic display, showing a new type of Selnar battle armor. "We've been developing this in secret. It incorporates adaptive camouflage technology, similar to what the humans have been using against us. It also has enhanced sensory capabilities that might allow us to detect snipers before they can strike." For the first time in weeks, a glimmer of hope appeared in Zark's eyes. "Begin production immediately and assemble our best warriors. It's time we gave these humans a taste of their own medicine." Back on Earth, the human resistance was capitalizing on their hard-won advantages. In hidden bunkers and makeshift labs, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to enhance the snipers' capabilities even further. Dr. Emily Chen, a brilliant physicist who had been working on cutting-edge camouflage technology before the invasion, made a breakthrough. She developed a suit that didn't just blend into the environment. It bent light around the wearer, rendering them nearly invisible. "It's not perfect," she explained to a group of eager snipers, Rapid movement can cause distortions, and it's not effective against certain types of alien sensors. But used correctly, it will make you practically ghosts. As the new technology was distributed to sniper teams around the world, reports of even more daring and successful operations began to pour in. Snipers were penetrating deep into alien-held territory, taking out high-value targets and vanishing without a trace. In the ruins of Sydney, a lone sniper named Jack Thompson had become a legend among both the human resistance and the alien occupiers. Using his intimate knowledge of the city's underground tunnel system and Dr. Chen's new camouflage suit, he struck with impunity, each shot sowing further terror among the Selnar ranks. His latest mission was his most ambitious yet. Intelligence had identified a visiting Selnar admiral, one of Zark's top lieutenants, who was conducting an inspection of the occupation forces in Australia. Taking out such a high-ranking officer would be a massive blow to the alien command structure. For 3 days and nights, Jack stalked his prey through the shattered streets of Sydney. He watched, he waited, he planned. The admiral was heavily guarded, surrounded at all times by a squad of elite Selnar warriors and protected by the most advanced shield technology. But Jack had learned patience. He had learned to become one with his environment, to see opportunities where others saw only obstacles. On the 4th day, as the admiral was preparing to board a shuttle back to the orbiting fleet, Jack saw his chance. From his perch atop the half-collapsed Sydney Opera House, Jack took aim. The shot would be nearly impossible, through a narrow gap in the shields, accounting for wind shear, the planet's rotation, and the curvature of the Earth. But Jack had made the impossible his specialty. He exhaled slowly, his finger tightening on the trigger. The world narrowed to a single point of focus, and then he fired. The shot crossed nearly 2 kilometers in the blink of an eye. It threaded the needle between shifting energy shields, bypassed the admiral's personal force field, and struck true. The Selnar leader fell, a look of utter shock frozen on its alien features. Chaos erupted as the admiral's guards frantically searched for the source of the shot. But Jack was already gone, slipping away through pre-planned escape routes, nothing more than a whisper in the wind. As news of the admiral's death spread, it sent shockwaves through the Selnar ranks. The message was clear. Nowhere was safe. No one was beyond the reach of Earth's snipers. But even as the human resistance celebrated this victory, a new threat was looming. General Zark, driven to desperation, was about to unveil his new weapon. The hunters were at victory through precision. As the war entered its 6th month, both sides were pushed to their limits. The human resistance, bolstered by the success of their sniper teams, had grown bolder in their attacks. Meanwhile, the Selnar forces, reeling from constant losses and the erosion of their technological advantage, were about to unleash their secret weapon. In the ruins of what was once Moscow, Sergeant Anastasia Volkova of the Russian Spetsnaz led a team of elite snipers. They had received intel about a major Selnar offensive being planned, and their mission was to disrupt it before it could begin. As Anastasia set up her position in the bombed-out shell of a cathedral, her spotter, Yuri, suddenly tensed. Movement, 800 meters north. But something's not right. Anastasia peered through her scope, and for the first time in months, felt a chill of fear. The approaching Selnar soldiers were unlike any she had seen before. Their armor seemed to shift and change, blending with the surrounding rubble. They moved with a fluidity that belied their alien nature, and worst of all, they were looking directly at her position. "Fuck," she muttered. "They've adapted. Yuri, send the alert. All teams fall back to secondary positions. Now." As they scrambled to relocate, energy bolts sizzled past them, far too close for comfort. The hunters had indeed become the hunted. Across the globe, similar scenes played out. The new Selnar elite forces, equipped with adaptive camouflage and enhanced sensors, were turning the tables on human snipers. For the first time since the early days of the invasion, the aliens were able to strike from the shadows, sowing fear and confusion among Earth's defenders. In his orbiting flagship, General Zark allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. At last, he growled, mandibles clicking with pleasure. We will crush these human vermin and claim this world for the glory of the Xelmar Empire. But Zark's triumph was premature, for even as his new forces scored initial victories, humanity was doing what it did best: adapting. In hidden bunkers around the world, human scientists and strategists worked feverishly to counter the new Xelmar threat. Dr. Emily Chen, the architect of the Resistance's advanced camouflage technology, had a breakthrough. We can't beat them at their own game, she explained to a group of military leaders. But we can change the rules. I've developed a new type of sensor that doesn't just detect movement or heat, but the minute distortions in space-time caused by their cloaking technology. As this new technology was rushed into production and distributed to sniper teams worldwide, the tide of battle began to shift once more. In the sun-baked streets of Cairo, Major Hassan al-Rashid put the new sensors to the test. As his team moved through the ancient city, they detected a squad of cloaked Xelmar elites attempting to flank them. With their advantage of surprise lost, the aliens found themselves outmatched by the more experienced human snipers. Similar stories poured in from all theaters of war. The human snipers, their skills honed by months of constant combat, proved more than a match for the Xelmar elites once the playing field was leveled. But the final battle, the one that would decide the fate of Earth, was yet to come. Intelligence gathered by Resistance hackers indicated that General Zark himself was planning to lead a massive assault on the last major human stronghold, a fortified complex hidden deep in the Rocky Mountains. It was to be the Xelnar's final push, an all-or-nothing gamble to break the human resistance once and for all. As Xelmar ships darkened the skies over Colorado, the trap was sprung. Thousands of human snipers, gathered from every corner of the globe, lay in wait. They had spent weeks preparing the battlefield, using every trick and technique they had learned over the long months of war. The battle that followed would be spoken of for generations to come. For 3 days and nights, the mountains echoed with the sound of energy weapons and the crack of sniper rifles. The Xelnar forces, for all their technological might, found themselves stymied at every turn by the human sharpshooters. Snipers struck from impossible angles, their shots guided by advanced ballistic computers that accounted for every variable from wind speed to the Earth's rotation. Cloaked Xelnar elites were spotted and eliminated before they could close in on human positions. Every alien advance was met with a withering hail of precision fire that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. On the third day, as the alien assault faltered, Captain Emily Chen of the U.S. Army Rangers spotted an opportunity. Through her scope, she saw General Zark, surrounded by his elite guard, directing the battle from a hovering command platform. The shot was beyond difficult. The platform was at the edge of her rifle's effective range, protected by shifting energy shields and buffeted by high-altitude winds. But Emily had trained for this moment. She had visualized it in her mind 1,000 times. As she steadied her breath, time seemed to slow. She felt the rotation of the earth beneath her, sensed the subtle shifts in air pressure. Her finger tightened on the trigger, and the world narrowed to a single point of focus. The shot, when it came, was perfect. It threaded through a momentary gap in the shields, bypassed the general's personal force field, and struck true. General Zark, the architect of the invasion that had nearly destroyed humanity, fell. The effect on the Xelnar forces was immediate and catastrophic. With their leader fallen, their coordinated assault fell apart. Confusion reigned as contradictory orders flew back and forth. Some alien units fought on, while others began to retreat. By nightfall, it was over. The remnants of the once mighty Xelnar invasion force were in full retreat, fleeing back to their ships and abandoning Earth as quickly as they had come. As news of the victory spread, celebrations erupted around the globe. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged triumphant. And at the heart of that triumph were the snipers, the patient hunters who had turned the tide of an interplanetary war. In the years that followed, As Earth rebuilt and prepared its defenses against any future threats, the legend of the snipers grew. They became symbols of human ingenuity, adaptability, and the indomitable spirit that had saved their world. The Selmar Empire had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had learned a harsh lesson: never underestimate humanity, for in the face of extinction, every human becomes a weapon, every shadow a potential threat. And sometimes victory comes not with a bang, but with the quiet precision of a single, well-placed shot.